This is the best of the Cool Nerd Weed Show? I was so high when this first aired, I don't even remember The Cool Nerd Weed Show on idobi Radio.
It's the Cool Nerd Weed Show with TS and Sasha on idobi Radio. We joined the idobi family about 5 years ago, June of 2017. So we're going to take you on a series of flashbacks during this episode. The first one is going to be our very first show on idobi Radio. We're joined by Fish. We give you the full origin story of the nerds on episode 1. And then in the next segment, we will be joined by Kevin Smith, who we were blessed and honored to have on our show, the Cool Nerd Weed Show. We caught up with Kevin Smith during the Panini. Also, during the Panini, we were able to catch up with the one and only, the godfather of cannabis, Tommy Chong. Another one. I don't know how we did it. The nerds pulled it off somehow. During the Panini, we managed to get Kevin Smith and Tommy Chong. So during this little flashback, we're going to take you on our origin story, and then you're going to get a little bit of Kevin Smith, and then you're going to get a little Tommy Chong. So kick back, light them up, and enjoy. We love all of you. Thank you for listening for the last 5 years. And thank you, idobi.
Yeah, it's the Cool Nerd Weed Show.
Live from Hollywood, it's the Cool Nerd Weed Show.
It is TS, or Sasha and TS.
And TS. I'm TS.
And I'm Sasha. Oh, man. Here we are, doing a weed show on the actual waves of the air.
idobi Radio.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I am proud of us. I don't know. I never thought I'd be here. For realsies, though, we're from New York. We'll let you know who we are, because we're East Coasters by definition.
Transplants.
Yeah, transplantees. TS more so than I. I am Sasha, and I am from the East Coast, and I'm a transplant, like a 4-year-old transplant. I haven't been here for too long. I've been in the weed business for probably like 3 years-ish. You've been in the weed business for like as long as you can remember.
I moved here in 1990 something, early 90s.
Sure,
it's a little hazy.
Yeah, who knows how long it's actually been.
I actually registered to vote in 1996 for Prop 215, which gave Californians the right to have medical marijuana.
Beautiful thing.
It was a beautiful thing.
What's the actual term for that? The Compassionate
Use Act.
Yeah, no compassion anymore. Well, we'll get into that eventually. We'll get into the lack of compassion and how we're trying to keep the compassion in the California cannabis business. I think that's like one of our main missionary statements, is that we're honest bud tenders in the world of weed, who we touch it with our hands all the time.
Every day. We love cannabis in all of its forms.
Every single one.
Smoking, edibles, vaping.
Topicals.
You name it.
Yeah. Snorting.
What's it? Yeah.
We have snorted.
True story.
We'll have to bring that to the idobi Radio audience.
That's another
our classy.
That's another product review for later on down the line.
For later on, when we've gained the trust of everyone, and we don't want them to see our true form. Which
you can ingest cannabis in many ways.
Any soluble way.
Actually, any orifice.
Any orifice.
Yeah.
I giggled because I'm 12, but yeah, there are medicinal benefits to it in every way, and I want us to explore them all and let everybody know how they can benefit from it. And I think that's like kind of one of the main things that we're hoping to achieve is like education without the sacrifice of entertainment.
Yes, that's.
I just thought of that.
This is if I can borrow a term from Blastmaster KRS-One, this is edutainment.
It is edutainment, and not for nothing. It shouldn't be. It isn't stigmatized now more than ever, and I think being in California is very beneficial for us because we are paving the way for the rest of the country, even though we weren't the first to legalize it, technically.
in the world.
But California, I really think, has to be acknowledged as a very important state in terms of medicinal and recreational marijuana. Even though Colorado and a couple other states were there with the legalization of recreational, I feel like California, with its like weed background
and culture
and community. Like somebody said cannabis community the other day in the dispensary where I work. We used to work at the same dispensary, by the way.
Yes, we did.
We now don't. We work 100 yards away from each other.
We're technically 1,001 feet away.
And one.
Legally.
By legal definition. So we now have different stories to bring to the table. But we used to work in the same place. And in my dispensary, somebody came in and I said cannabis community. And they laughed. Those bastards.
How dare they?
I know.
How dare they laugh?
I was like, I ain't making no jokes. There's a real community here.
It is a community.
It is.
Cannabis
and that's something that brings people together.
Brings the people together.
And something that I learned, I think, that helped me learn was moving here and being in the cannabis community. It's hard to feel like you're at home in a place like LA, where we live. But I think the community is so inclusive that you really can feel like you're part of something way more important than just a bunch of stoners, which is very important. I think stoner culture is very important. But I also think it should be taken seriously. And I think we're going to try not to be too angry about the state of things because I think we're dealing with it.
Yeah, it's been, let's see, it's been 6 months.
6 months since the state of legalization in California. Prop
64 has gone into effect in California.
And then now is the part where we talk about the difference between 215 and 64. Well, so 215 was when, back in what? 10 years ago? 15
1996.
1996. I don't know math.
That's
Help me here. All right.
Over 20 years ago.
Over 20?
I guess 18 at this point.
Years, 18
about
years
18 years.
That was when we had to use different language for weed. We couldn't say you're buying weed at a store.
Oh, absolutely not. In the early days, they wouldn't post prices on the wall at all or anywhere. You wouldn't post prices anywhere. So
no dollar signs.
No dollar signs. That was very important. But when you would look at a menu and it would say, for example, a top shelf eighth, which would be about, I don't know, back then it was $75 to $55. Damn. So you would see the way we did it was you would see hearts. So each heart represented $10.
Oh, that's so nice.
So 5.5 hearts is $55.
Oh, 5.5 hearts. Yeah. It's like Zelda. That's adorable.
And it was a donation back then, and everybody was members. We were all part of the collective.
You're all part of a collective. So I would like to say right now that we have not grown out of that lingo yet. We're still kind of saying like you're making a donation, and I still refer to it as medicine. We couldn't say like herb. We had to say flower.
Yeah. Flower.
You know, there were certain things that you couldn't say because it would sound like you were a drug den, and or that you weren't operating under the law, that you were being cowboy, where you can just take dollar signs and do it under the table and not have an establishment that was Prop 215 friendly or compliant.
Also, when you were making your donation,
i.e. paying.
We
can say it now.
With cash and dollars, you would you couldn't say things like you would discourage people from saying things like, "Let me get a dub."
Yes.
Or, will this get me fucked up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is real loud, dank.
This is, so.
Sticky, hicky, icky. You know, none of that. Those delinquent
Excuse me, sir. I'll get you. Did you mean a gram? Sir, were you referring to a dub as a gram? And they were like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll get you a gram, sir.
I will weigh you out. And weigh you out, I should say, is an antiquated term because for a long time, the California model, and I think this was how it was really in all medicinal places, was that quote unquote deli style, where you would literally like a deli, just pick what you wanted, and we would weigh it out or slice it, it were.
A little thinner. Can you get it a little thinner?
A little thinner, bigger buds. Bigger buds is a little thinner of the weed world, and we would make sure that we gave you the most quality part of the jar, and you would watch us do that with our gloves. It was, I mean, was a pretty cool process, I feel like.
It was more. You mentioned cannabis community, but we were all part of the community. We were all members. Everybody was a member down to the from the employee volunteers to the growers. We're all part of the collective, the collective process.
Yes, and
as a member, not everybody can grow their own.
Right.
They might have but this guy who's got a farm up north is the grower for you. So he's part of the collective, and he comes down and brings you your medicine for a reasonable reimbursement.
Yes.
And then as a collective storefront, you can dispense all the medicine for another reasonable reimbursement.
Yep. Fucking hippies is what it is.
It was a little bit new age hippie kind of system, but it worked and we loved it.
Yeah, and it was great. Not to say, and we'll get to what it is now in just a little bit, but not to say it isn't great now, but I am very grateful that I got to experience like a full 2 years of the collective experience, because as much as like I feel like it is a community now and it will always be, that was like, because I kind of didn't even think about the grower aspect of it, about how like they really were part of an experience that like was coming from like just like a big huge field of weed to like those little 5.5 hearts that the consumer would take part in. So that was a pretty part of it. And for us as bud tenders, I think it was cool to just kind of start that conversation with people. But now we voted in a new law where it's Proposition 64, where all cannabis recreational use, we'll get to the restrictions, is now legal in the state of California. It is, we no longer have to refer to it as donation, even though I still do, or medicine, or the dollar signs are allowed. We can talk about money over the phone. We couldn't do that. People would ask how much something is, and we can say what it is now, whereas before we couldn't. So there's a stigma that is completely lifted, where we don't need to have different nomenclature. We could actually say, hey, come buy some really good pot at our storefront, which I think is cool, right?
Yeah, be open and honest. And have free speech.
P.S. Hi, fish.
I just realized I don't have shoes on.
Well, thank you for...
Well, just get comfortable.
Yeah, just get comfy. I mean, you're in the right place. This is a chill show, right?
I don't remember when I took them off, but I just looked down and I'm like...
I don't think you had them on since I've seen you today.
I don't know where they are in the studio right now.
They are misplaced, but that's all right. I mean, it's okay.
It still smells pretty good in here.
Yeah, and we haven't
shower
even
daily.
What's up?
Plus,
and I do wash.
See that? I mean, you're more on top of things than I can say I probably am. but yeah, so that's where we are now. We're in Prop 64 versus Props 215, because 215 got kind of absorbed by 64. So when I say there's no compassion, quote unquote, it means there was kind of an obligation to collectives when somebody came in and they said, I am dying. I'm literally dying. Can I get weed donated to me?
Yes, and I can't afford my medicine.
And that was an extreme case. That was AIDS. That was cancer. That was we definitely did a good amount of vetting. But people would come in, and we would be able to give them a bonus weed. You know, you came in, you made a minimum donation, or we had stems where we would be able to just kind of give them the scraps of our weed. There were ways we could do things. Now it's illegal to give away weed, hands down.
Yeah, in the early days, we'd have people come in once a week, and then they can get a certain amount of medicine for free. But that's gone. No more.
Yeah.
Thanks
So
to Prop 64.
Maybe $1 or 1 cent. We didn't want to do a change at our place, so we haven't been doing the one.
No, nobody wants to deal with change.
Well, nobody does. The penny's useless. But so there's that, and then there's the tax, which has been the biggest of bummers for I think everybody who's been using it as compassionate use medicine. The recreational, quote unquote. If you're a recreational person, meaning you don't have a doctor's note, you'll get taxed
34.5% out the door.
I don't like talking about it.
15% of that is excise tax that goes right to the state.
Yay. Potholes.
And hopefully.
Schools.
And
DARE programs.
10% for the city of LA.
Yes.
And 9.2%, depending on where you're standing and what particular city, for sales tax, about 9%. So you add all those numbers up, and that's about 34.5%.
So,
for recreational.
It's decent. Then there's another tier for medicinal members where the compassion kind of comes back, and that's about a 5% difference of lower. And then there's a state card, which TS has, but I'm too tinfoil hat to get.
That's I've had it for several years now.
I want my name on some list.
Oh, I'm on all the lists. So, I'm just put myself on Front Street. But yeah,
it's 5% tax, though.
You save an additional sales tax.
Yes,
9%.
And that is your
lowest on all of my purchases.
Yes, which is it adds up.
For me.
It adds up so much. People who didn't think it would, they'll come in, 2-3 months later saying it did. So there are ups and downs to what is happening now, but I think ultimately it can be a very good thing, because I think this state in particular, California, will show the rest of the country that they were afraid of some dumb stuff for how many years, and cannabis is nothing to be afraid of, and it also can make you a lot of money, which I hate to acknowledge because
it's a wave,
capitalism, but
a wave of cannabis acceptance that's washing through America, and it started in California, and it's making its way all the way to the East Coast.
To the New York City, where there's a MedMen on every corner. MedMen is a chain of marijuana stores that you will see in a town near you probably very soon.
Yes,
It is now becoming very, very American capitalist model, which TS and I will every so often get annoyed at. So you'll probably hear us bitch about it here and there. Don't freaking be alarmed. But I think it's good to know the difference of the two, and now where we are now, and currently we are at a new place for cannabis. That makes us nervous,
but it's a brave new world.
It is, and we are on our way to cleaner weed. We are on our way to knowing what you're smoking, and it really being a good medicine.
Yeah, I think testing, which is part of Prop 64, is very important. Testing for mold, potency, pesticides. What else do we test for? Terpene profiles?
Terpenes.
Terpenes. We'll get to the terpenes.
We'll talk to you about later, the terpenes at a later date.
On a later show.
But
we're really going to nerd out on all things cannabis.
Oh, just wait. Yeah, this little introduction has been kid gloves, but you'll see. We get a little rowdy. I think it'll be time for our first break. We're going to go out. We're going to take a little smoke. Maybe. Not in the studio. We don't do that here. This is a professional atmosphere. God dang it. Stop looking at me like that fish. You know I'm not professional. God almighty.
Grab your bongs. We'll be right back.
Hi. Lights. From the Cool Nerd Weed Show. idobi Radio.
We're back. You're listening to the best of the Cool Nerd Weed Show. I'm Sasha. You just heard our origin story, our OG story, where we came from. We were such babbies there. And boy, have we grown, because I'm about to play you such a big moment during the pandemic, during a crazy time. TS and I actually got to sit down with the one and only legendary, one of our favorites, Kevin Smith. It was such a really great moment. We were fangirling out. It was so fun. And Kevin was such a treat and a delight. Without further ado, here it is, the Nerds and Kevin Smith on the best of the Cool Nerd Weed Show on idobi Radio.
Kids.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Evan.
Good.
It's nice
how are
to see you? Thank you very much.
We just got finished touring this movie, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, like for the last 2 months of the year and the first 2 months of the year. So February 26th, our tour ended. And then all of a sudden they were like, everybody's locking down. And so I was content to go home and sit around for months. This has actually been a great timing for me, and I understand it's for horrible reasons. There's been a lot of death, of course. It's all horrible. Sure. But in a world where everybody is like, man, I want to get out, I'm like, I'm very content to stay in. Yeah, this has been useful time. I've been writing scripts. I finished a script to this Mallrats sequel we're going to do. The Mallrats, yeah. And then I finished a script for second draft of Moose Jaws. I've just stayed busy. A lot of streaming, a lot of podcasting. So I've been okay. Luckily, nobody in my family, wound up getting COVID. And then just when you were like, right on, it looks like we're going to escape the disease. The whole world went on fire. Rightfully so. So I can't. What do we talk about on the Cool Nerd Weed Show?
So we'll talk.
Well,
we're gonna keep it focused on weed a lot.
yeah, we can start with what are you smoking right now?
What are you smoking? Yes.
Right now, I'm smoking. Normally, like I got my own to smoke. We got our own weed, so like we got Snoogans. It's probably backwards this way, but Caviar Gold, which is an amazing weed company here in Los Angeles. They supply our Snoogans, and then that's one, and then there's Snoochie Boochies is the other one. That's the sativa, and it's pumped up with a bunch of CBDs. They're infused, and then there's a hybrid called Berserker. But a friend of mine, Steve, just dropped off some stuff he home grows called Mimosa, and so I was about to fuck with that, as the kids say, to see if it's everything that he was promising it was. And he's a really great grower, so I think it's going to be what I think. I think it's going to be promising, kids. Let's find out.
Mimosas are usually delicious.
Yeah, we love mimosa.
Chirpy.
Very nice. It tastes like brunch.
Yeah. Tastes like I want some cheese with it.
No doubt. So, what about you guys? What are you guys smoking?
We're using we're dabbing. We're in the studio, so we usually have smoke flower in here.
And where is the studio?
We're in North Hollywood on Burbank.
And is it a studio or is it a home studio? Like, I'm home, my studio where I do all my podcasts, and like, here's my microphones and stuff. I do it right here in this room, no padding and shit like that. It's just my office, and my desk doubles. It's got 4 microphones that double as the podcast studio. Are you guys in a home, or are you guys in an office place that does podcasting?
We're in the studio where we go live most of the time, but we've been at home. But the home rig had a couple of ghosts in the machine. So
yeah, like I'm sure like your studio is like made for optimal sound. Like my studio is like, we call it the garage because it's just 2 mics on my living room table and like and that connects us to the broadcast. Like in here, whenever we come in here, we're like, God damn, we sound good. But when we're home, it's just a little.
Here at my home place, there's we're not soundproof at all. You hear traffic all the time, the dogs barking. But my big question was about, so where you are now, you're allowed to smoke in that place?
This is like this is concentrate.
Okay.
Yeah. So
no flower. You couldn't smoke. Like, couldn't light a joint, but you can vape.
Yeah, we keep it to vapes, dabbing, concentrates. We have a little smoke lounge up on the roof. The balcony.
They're super cool.
Nice.
Yeah, like obviously they have they're cool enough to have us on the network, so they created like a whole little like lounge upstairs for us. So there's like a little arrow that's like smokers lounge upstairs. And
yes, always the kind way for them to say, like, don't fucking smoke in here. Like, this is where you go. What's the view on the roof? What do you see when you smoke?
Yeah, man. What do we see?
We can see a nice sunset at,
over the 101.
Over like the 134, 101, 170.
I'm
right.
And we can watch the Burbank airport airplane.
Oh, nice. That's dope. I mean, shit. That's better than smoking inside, man. That's a little piece of heaven. You get to see life going on.
It really is. That's what's nice about California is like it's not the worst to go outside to smoke weed. It's not like being back east where it's like go outside and smoke and it's cold and miserable and sad. Like we get to watch
and you could get arrested depending on where you are.
Yes. Also, true. That's also true here. Although I do feel a little bit of a stigma sometimes, especially like coughing now and everything. I don't know. I feel.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of like, sorry, that's stoner cough. Nothing but stoner cough. I was doing that for most of last month.
Did you ever think that you would, as an early sort of cannabis user, that you would have your face on jars of weed?
Well, I mean, my cannabis history is more mixed than that. Like, I didn't start smoking weed till like 2008. Prior to 2008, I could count on like one hand the amount of times that I'd gotten blazed prior to that. I don't think I would have made Clerks and stuff if I was a stoner. I was an 80s kid, so there was a lot of Just Say No and
And you're
weed
on the
was,
East Coast too. I mean, South Jersey was like not.
yeah, there's no exposure. You're not
No!
you're getting sticks and stems if you're lucky and shit. So it's not
Right.
like, oh my God, I remember buying a bag of Jamaican lamb's wool in 1988 and stuff. And there was no high to be had, for heaven's sakes, man. So it was kind of dirt weed at best. But it wasn't until I worked on Zach and Mary Mega Porno 2007, 2008, when I met Seth Rogen. That's when I started smoking weed on the regular, and became first. It wasn't on the movie. It was afterwards. We smoked up together, like on the last day of production, and I was like, oh my God! Like, he had wonderful California weed. We were shooting in Pittsburgh. He had amazing weed from California, and it was me and him smoked in an editing room in Pittsburgh. Well, it was the room where I was cutting the movie has an editing room, and man, I just liked it. We had a great time, and I was like, oh shit, this is weed now? Like, who knew? This is fantastic. Like, they really got this shit down to a science. And it just, like, I was able to drop everything and just kind of be me, as opposed to being some presentation of who I felt I had to be and stuff. But then I didn't smoke weed again for another, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or something like that. And me and the wife were home for like 4th of July. Nobody else was home in the house. Normally, like, her parents live with us, and our kid, of course, lives with us. But they took the kid, her parents, and went to Big Bear. So we had the place to ourselves, and we were like, let's do something fucking transgressive. Let's get hookers or something like that. and we settled on the idea of weed. There was weed in the safe. She was like, Trish gave us weed 2 years ago. It's still in the safe. We could smoke that weed. And so I rolled like a terrible fucking joint, lumpy ass joint of this old ass weed. And we smoked it. And, like, I was like, oh my God, it's just like that day with Seth. Like, I like who I am better, and, like, pretense of who I was in our relationship. And this is somebody at this point I'd been involved with for, almost, let me see, I met her in 98. So 9 years, we're 8 years into a marriage and stuff. But suddenly I seen her through the green prism of reality, and everything was different, where I'm like, oh my God, look how fucking beautiful you are. It's like being in the Matrix, and you see all the zeros and ones that made her up and stuff. So we had a great night. Like, we took a cab out to, this was before Uber and shit, took a cab to like a restaurant that had this platter called the circus platter, which was like cotton candy, fucking like homemade cupcakes with creamy filling, like a peanut butter ice cream sundaes and shit like that. Just gorged on it and stuff, made out in public. It was nuts. Like, normally I'm not that guy, but I was just like, oh, fuck the world. So I remember the next day I was like, I like who I am better when I'm smoking, man. I said, I'm 38 years old. I'm making a choice that every night at like 6 o'clock, when I'm done with my work, I'm going to have me a fucking goddamn smoke. And so I did that for like a week. And then I was like, well, I don't really have a traditional job. Why the fuck am I waiting till 6 o'clock? Like, I could probably start this shit by noon. Really, I'm kind of done with everything by noon. And that's cool. The day would be so much better going forward. So I started smoking at like noon. And then one day I was like, like, I get up and I don't smoke for like 6 hours. It makes no sense. I should probably just start the day smoking and see where it goes. And so I became a wake and baker. So as age 38, I became a wake and baker, which is a big life change for a lot of people around me and stuff. And I remember, like, I was afraid to share it with the audience at first. Like, I've been working since 1994, like when Clerks got picked up and stuff. And then we'd been podcasting at that point for like 2 years or more. And, when we first started podcasting, like 2007, February 2007, we just passed like the 13-year anniversary. Like, I was a cigarette smoker, so you'd hear like a lot of lighter clicks. When I became a weed smoker, you would hear a lot more lighter clicks. but we never like said like, oh, I'm smoking weed. Not for a while. But the ideas in the show got weirder and weirder, and I got gigglier and gigglier and stuff. And then one day we did an episode, it's called Smod Kush, where I outed myself to the audience, where I was like, I've become like a wake and bake, full-blown fucking stoner. The same thing they told us not to be when we were kids and stuff. And I got to tell you, it's much better. I like myself a lot better. I'm here in this place and stuff. And so there was a fear initially about letting the audience know that I'd become a stoner. And I definitely lost some cats. Anytime, like on Facebook, like if I smoke a joint, which you're not supposed to, or talk about weed, I'll still lose some fucking followers out there. People are still like, there's still a stigma to it, which is crazy. Because to me, I'm like, Seth put it best. Seth was like, you know, I was so impressed by his ability to smoke weed, but then at the same time, like, go make my movie, do my script, but then ad-libbed 4 better movies than the one I had written, and still then go in the trailer with Evan between takes and write the next movie he was going to do. And I was like, man, you're fucking productive and shit. Is this like super weed? And he's like, no. He's going, there are a bunch of, what did he call them? Productive. No, it wasn't productive. It was a different word for it. But it was like stoners. Let's use productive for words escape me. But productive stoners who can blaze and fucking work. Not just like it wasn't the old stereotype of I'm going to smoke a joint and crash and watch South Park or fucking The Simpsons. It was like, he's like functional stoners. That's what it was. He's like, there's a whole fucking community, and he goes, particularly in our business, of functional stoners, people who get up, smoke weed, and go about their fucking days. Like, I'm one of them. This guy's one of them. So eventually I became that functional stoner because he impressed me so much. He was always able to accomplish so many things while being what he termed a functional stoner. So when I embraced it, like, you know, I'd smoked weed a couple times, like I said, in my late teens and early 20s and stuff like that. But when I embraced it, I was age 38, and it was the perfect time. So I was middle-aged and suddenly realized my own mortality. And I was like, oh my God, this is all going to end one day. I'm going to fucking die. And that's when weed is handy. Like, I don't think teenagers should smoke weed. And I'm not being like a moralist. I didn't smoke weed really when I was a teenager until after I got out of high school. But I honestly don't believe it's for them, because you don't need it when you're a kid in high school. I don't care how bad shit ever gets. It's the best time of your fucking life. Things are as innocent and easy as it's going to get when you're in fucking high school. If you think high school is tough, fucking real world is real shitty. It's much shittier than fucking high school and stuff. So it's my firm belief that even kids that have to deal with trauma in high school, you know, like, weed's not going to do anything for them, man. When weed comes useful is when you're facing the fucking grave and you're facing mortality, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to fucking die one day, because then it becomes a tonic. Then when you're like struggling with your mortality and stuff, this happens.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go. Like, there's a sense of not immortality, but a sense of like, I accept the fact that things will end, but I'm here now. You know, a real like seize the day comes with every inhalation of this. I used to be a cigarette smoker. I gave it up when I became like a weed smoker full time. Like, and it wasn't even like I had to train myself. I just stopped fucking picking up cigarettes because I'm like, I smoke a cigarette, I want another cigarette. I smoke this shit, I can do anything. And then I made a deal with myself that was really important, because I was like, look, everyone's going to call you a fucking degenerate stoner and come down on your ass and shit. Now they're going to say, you fucking played Silent Bob, now you are Silent Bob, whatever fuck. I said, if you're going to do this, become a wake and bake stoner, you have to tie it to productivity. So every time you're lighting a joint, you're recording a podcast, you're writing a script, you're fucking going online, you're communicating with your audience, you're going up to do a show. As long as it's tied with productivity, nobody could ever tag you for being like some lazy stoner, because I'm like, look, man, I'm fucking doing shit. Like, I may be smoking weed, I may be fucking baked off my gourd, but I'm still doing all the things I'm supposed to, and I'm doing more things than you are at this moment in time. I'm spinning a bunch of fucking plates and stuff. So I tied my weed in with productivity, and you could literally look at my career and be like, in the beginning, I just made movies, and that was so fun and cool and shit. But once I became a stoner, like, if I was just like, well, every time I want to make a movie, I'll smoke weed. Like, you only get to do that like once every 2 years. If you're lucky, it's a long process and shit. Whereas recording podcasts, like, you know, fuck, man, that gives me a reason to smoke right now. I can record, if I want to smoke 5 joints today, I just need to record 5 podcasts, and it's all fucking good. My productivity went through the fucking roof. So in the beginning, there was some vocal minority that would try to be like, oh, he's fucking become a wasteoid, or blah, 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 or he's lost it, or, you know, people will draw parallels. Your earlier movies are better than your recent movies, whatever the fuck. But for me, I could point to my productivity over the course of like from 2008 until now, the last 12 years. I've done more in those 12 years than I did in the first 13 years of my career, man. And I attribute that all to weed. Not like it made it possible, not like weed gave me good ideas. It just took away all the inhibitors. It made me realize what was possible. It made me go like, look, like when you started this, you do it for free. You do it for fun. Lean into that. Like, you know, you don't always have to get paid to do this shit. Just do it because you love it. And plus, the more you want to smoke weed, the more you can do it. Like these things are connected now. So the more you want to do this, the more you got to create it. So it conditioned me to be more creative. Didn't give me better ideas. I mean, look at fucking yoga hosers. But it did. I love it too. But it did, like, it got rid of the inhibitors that would have stopped me from doing a thing or two where I'm like, oh, I'm scared. What will they say? What will they think? And now I'm just like, who cares what they think? Let's do it. The thing is to be done.
Kevin Smith, because you say that, and like, yet you made a movie called Dogma, and like we rewatched Dogma the other day, and like you're smoking cigarettes, and I was like, like when you lit up, like you were fearless back then too. Did you feel like you had, like once you ignited? Oh God, that was shitty. But once you ignited this inside of you, did you feel that was that always there? Like what? Because Jay, like for me, being a fan of yours and watching Jay and Silent Bob before I was, or watching Clerks before I was a stoner, but being like it could be like that. Like you guys were cool, you know. You guys were the culture for me back then, and then you evolved into Reboots, which is making like C-3PO and R2-D2 like your heroes. Yeah. Was that always in you, or did that evolve once weed became, you know?
Well, I mean, weed comes into the picture in 2008. So when I look at like, you know, all the early stuff, like Jay and Silent Bob are introduced as these friendly neighborhood weed dealers. That was predicated on what little experience I had with weed myself, and the brief tenure Jason Mewes had as somebody who smoked weed before he moved on to much harder things and stuff. Weed wasn't so much a gateway for him. He was predisposed genetically and stuff to go harder than he ever did with weed. So, you know, because I had a friend who had drug issues, that was another reason to like not fuck with anything. And also when I made Clerks, when I made Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, I was a cigarette smoker. That's it. Wasn't even a drinker. So like, you know, to me, I was like, I ain't gonna rock this fucking boat. Like I remember being on Zach and Mary Make a Porno, and my friend Malcolm Ingram, he's Canadian. Like he comes up to me at one point and he goes, man, I just talked to Seth, and Seth wants to smoke weed with you. And I was like, well, I don't smoke fucking weed. And he goes, well, he don't fucking know that. He's a cinematic stoner icon. You're a cinematic stoner icon. The two of you gotta smoke together, man. It's fucking important. And so I was like, well, I can't, I could never smoke weed and direct a movie, which is funny because that's all I do now. So, you know, I was like, good to know, duly noted. And it wasn't until the end of the movie. We were on the last day of doing pickup shots. And it was just me and Seth. The rest of the cast was already done at this point. And so, you know, we had 2 shots left. And I was like, how about, you know, when we're done with these 2 shots, you and me get together and we smoke some of that weed I've been hearing so much about. And he's like, finally. And that night absolutely changed my life. He exposed me to a new way of thinking about something that I was oddly familiar with from back in the day, and instantly demonized because of my conditioning from the culture and stuff like that. So once I let weed into my life, suddenly I was game for doing other things. I was like, let's open a podcast theater. Like, that's stupid. You know, it's not, one doesn't do that to get rich. One doesn't do that because it's a great idea. One does it because it's like, you know, one does it because of this. They're like,
and it's like weed makes you think like, why doesn't that exist? Like
exactly. And also it gives you these tiny goals where you're like, if we open that, we will be the world's first podcast theater, you know, and that's worth doing the thing and stuff like that. So, you know, it took me on wonderful journeys like Tusk, like making the movie about the walrus that came from a very... I love that movie.
I love it. There was like one movie for my birthday that everyone was like, what should we watch? I was like, yeah, we should watch Tusk today.
That's such a cruel thing to do to people, man.
Like, it's to me like a really great stoner movie. Like I ate edibles. It was my birthday. Like, and I was just like enjoying everybody and enjoying the movie. And like I was like, it was like the last two standing, and I was just like, how great is this? Like, and that's the thing. Like that to me was like super good stoner material. Like just had me thinking, had me laughing, like that. I think that's really good. That's stoner culture to me.
That means the world. Thank you. But yeah, that wouldn't have happened in the first half of my career. I would have, like, even if we, had recorded this wonderful podcast where the story was kind of born, and it made me laugh as hard as it did with the episode of the pod. I think it was Smodcast 259, The Walrus and the Carpenter, that's where Tusk was born. Like, I wouldn't have seen it through. It just would have been like, oh, wouldn't that be funny? And then you move on with real life. So Weed took me to this other place where I'm like, I'd stopped making films for 3 years, and all of a sudden Tusk brought me back. And that was like, that the possibility, the power of possibility of like, wow, what if we did make this stupid fucking walrus movie? And it was like open source, so the whole internet could see from the ground up. Like, they heard the initial idea. Very rarely does the initial idea ever have a microphone on it. So they could see us take a stupid idea and turn it into a fucking real life movie. And then they would know that, like, anybody could do it. If you could make a fucking walrus movie work, like, you got to be able to follow your dreams.
The best of the Cool Nerd Weed Show. Wait, this is a repeat? I don't remember hearing this one before. idobi Radio.
And we're back. It's the Cool Nerd Weed Show with TS and Sasha on idobi Radio. That was our interview with Kevin Smith. Next up, we have the godfather of cannabis. You may recognize him from such films as Up in Smoke, Zootopia, Cheech and Chong the Next Movie, Nice Dreams, and That 70s Show. idobi listeners, it's Tommy Chong.
I think we have Tommy Chong here.
As long as you can see me.
We can, yeah.
And we're very happy to see you. How are you doing?
Okay. I'm doing great. I couldn't get any better.
You sound it, man.
I just love what's going down.
You watched the whole circus last night?
Well, I love the lockdown,
Yeah. Well, you finally get to relax.
I know, I'm on vacation. Like 5 months vacation. And I got a private chef.
I love
Amazing.
it.
You're thriving in lockdown.
I know it's crazy. And I'm making money because I do cameos. And,
you do the cameos. That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I do cameos, and so I'm, I got a beautiful home in Palisades, and I'm just hobnobbing with my billionaire friends. Now, a lot of them are Trumpies, but that's okay because we just make a deal not to talk politics when we're together.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's great. I'm telling you, I've never had a better time in my life.
That actually that makes me really happy because you worked so hard your entire life.
Yeah. And not only that, but I'm married to this gorgeous lady. Mm. But when we were, back to normal, I hardly ever seen her.
What does she do for a living?
Well, no, she's like taking dance classes, taking art classes, taking, she takes 3 dance classes a week. Different, tango, ballroom, and ballet, and she only used to cook on Christmas, but now she cooks every day, and we're sequestered together. So, I got my own part of the house, and she's got hers. And I'm not allowed to do anything, that would change the landscape. She's an artist. and so I'm not allowed to really work.
That's a good deal.
Oh, it's such a good deal, And I got a little poodle that I hang with. It's my son's poodle, but my son Paris and Rama, his wife, they just gave birth to a baby. It's like a week and a half old.
Congratulations!
Yeah,
Oh, thank you,
Grandpa Chong.
So we're just. It's really, and we're California, so it's crazy. I feel guilty.
It's true. It's true. It's easy to feel guilty when you're really living it up. But I still have to say, you worked. You literally did time, so you deserve this time, this little vacation that you have. You've been going for a long time, and now is your time to enjoy it. Do you find yourself smoking more weed, or you think you're about the same? I ask everybody this question because I feel like I'm about the same, which is a lot of weed.
What's that again? What's the question?
Do you find yourself consuming more cannabis than before, or?
Oh no.
It's the same.
Well, no. Actually, you're right. You're right. Probably a little more, because when I do cameos, I get requests. Hey, give a shout out, but smoke a doob while you're doing it. And, and so I smoke a doob, and I'm getting back in the bong business because the workers or the artists that were making the bongs, they're on restraint now. We can do it.
Sure.
And so I'm wrapping these Chong bongs that are incredible. And of course, when you get a new bong, you got to try it out. So actually,
absolutely
got a christening.
Yeah. So actually, I'm smoking just a little bit more than I usually do.
We just interviewed Kevin Smith about a month ago, and he told us how he had you in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and then he had you in Reboot, and he said he was so much prouder of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot to have you there because he felt like that was his true tribute to Cheech, his true like stoner movie. How is it working with people that literally idolize you? That people who see you and are inspired.
It's good. It's a lot of fun. It's really nice. People are, especially the movie business. There's what do you call it? Like a routine that you do. And you stick to the routine. And the stars always get the best treatment. And I really enjoy it. The problem I have now as I get older, I'm not really good at memorizing lines, and so I get a little ear thing, or like in Kevin's case, they just fed me the lines and got different reactions, and then they go in the editing room and then they put it all together. So, it's just really, like I said, it's right now. I'm at that stage where I could leave any minute, but I don't want to because I'm having too much fun.
That's beautiful.
You're looking good, Tommy, I have to say.
Well, I've been a bodybuilder all my life.
You've been in shape your whole life. You're yourself.
Well, I'm married to this weird lady that she's when she got pregnant, she never bought maternity clothes.
Wow.
She would just let the back of the dress out on
Wow.
And after she had the baby, she didn't have to do anything. Her weight just went back down. I mean, she's really weird. she's got a perfect body. I mean, that's why, when I start getting a little bit spiritual or religious, and people say, how do you know there is a God? And so I always say, have you seen my wife lately?
Not only is that spiritual, that's so romantic.
Well, yeah. Well, the truth is, there is a God, and he really likes me.
You're talking about Shelby, right?
Yes.
She's beautiful.
She is. I saw you guys play at the Roxy on your last tour, and she was doing like an opening, and she's hilarious. Oh my God!
I'm telling you. I couldn't leave her at home when I started doing comedy on my own, and without Cheech, and I need a partner.
Yeah.
And then she's too beautiful to leave at home, you know.
For sure.
And so I one time I had a gig in Guam, and I said, "Come on, you know, it's Guam. We'll have a little vacation." She goes, "No, you know, this before she was working with me." She goes, "No, I don't want to just sit in the dressing room, you know." And I said, "Well, how about if I put you in the show?" And she's an actress, so she couldn't turn down the role. And so she said, "Oh, okay." So she's on stage, and at first all she did was introduce me, you know, and here he is, Tommy Chong.
Sure.
And then she started doing a little bit of time. Each time out, she'd do a little bit of, you know, stand up. And then pretty soon she had like 20, 30 good minutes, you know. and then we went to Australia. And they just treated her like a real comic, you know. They said, "Okay, Shelby will go on first, and then we'll have an intermission."
Oh, wow.
Now, before she would always go on, but she always had me, you know, bring me out, and then, you know, we would do a bit together. But now she had to do her whole act, and she was so happy. Everybody else would crumble, but she was so happy. She got to be on it. And now, yeah, now she's, you know, we're a little rusty now. We've been laid off for too long. And I never really was one of those guys that just did stand up, you know.
Right.
I was a guy. Yeah, I'm a guy. I was just talking to these other interviewers, and I just realized, see, when you do interviews, you learn a lot about yourself, because
Sure.
it's sort of like therapy, you know.
Yeah.
And so I realized that I can do a lot of things, but I'm not one of them, you know. Like, I can play guitar, but I'm not a guitarist. I can direct a movie, but I'm not a movie director. I can act, but I'm not really an actor. I can do comedy, but I'm not really a comedian. It's funny. And I write songs when I had to. You know, I wrote a song was for you know, most people, you know, they write hundreds of songs, sometimes thousands. I wrote one.
Well, and you've been to prison, and you're not a prisoner, so
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, exactly.
I love that. That's a really beautiful way to look at Jack of all trades. It really is.
Yeah, you can do all these things, but you're not tied to that one thing, you know. And then you know, when I like around the house, you know, there's certain things I can do, but I'm, you know, terrible at fixing things. you know, the faucet's broken or
Right.
the fuse. Like, I had a hard time finding the circuit breaker, you know, finding exactly where the circuit breaker was, let alone find out which is. And then I realized, and I tell people this all the time, is don't be too talented around your wife, especially.
Well, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
You work very well. You have a partner. You have, and like you said, you didn't want to do stand up comedy, which is an alone thing. You feed off of the energy of other people, so that makes you more talented.
Well, when I started my music career, I was a backup guitar player for a fiddle player. You know, it was just the fact that he needed a guitar player. He could teach me. And so he taught me how to be a backup guitar player. Well, that was the best lessons I had, because what you do, then you can play with really, really good people.
Right.
And not be that proficient, you know, other than, you know how to keep a rhythm. And he taught me how to keep rhythm. And then he taught me the most important thing was that always give the audience what they want. You know, like if they want you to play a song 10 times, play it. Because that's your job, is to entertain. You know, it's not to entertain yourself; it's to entertain the people that are paying you. And so I've always had that attitude. So it worked well with me, because a lot of times, especially musicians, you know, they fall in love with their own stuff.
For sure.
And they don't want to, you know, compromise or change or anything, or even recognize other people. And that was the other lesson I learned is always play with musicians that are better than you.
And we're back. It's the Cool Nerd Weed Show with TS and Sasha. Thank you very much for all of your support for the last 5 years. Thank you for listening. Thank you, idobi Radio. And remember, don't panic. It's organic. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to thank you so much for being a beautiful audience. Thank you very much. We'll be back real soon. Y'all take care and remember, unity forever, please.